So today we're going to head on down to New Orleans. I love me some good old New Orleans cooking. I like some spice, I like some sausage, and so I want to show you how we're going to do some jambalaya today. And I've done other recipes for you like Cajun red beans and rice and some barbecue shrimp, but this one is going to be a delicious jambalaya. I've seen a lot of people out there making them on YouTube lately, and so I want to show you my version. So I just picked up some really good andouille sausage at the farm, and then I smoked it for about an hour between about 225 and 250 degrees Fahrenheit until it reached an internal temperature of about 160 degrees Fahrenheit. And so that didn't take really too long, and oh, it was smelling so good. And so the next morning after I smoked that sausage, I headed on down to the garden. I started here in the pepper container garden, so I'm going to try to use a lot of fresh herbs for this dish instead of using dry, but I'm also going to give you a shortcut recipe for those of you who want to give it a try, but you don't want to, go out and buy all the fresh herbs and that kind of thing, or, if you have them obviously in your garden, go ahead and use them. So I got several jalapeno peppers. I'm going to actually use a little bit of a red bell pepper, and don't you know it, when I cut this off, I also took off one of the stems of this plant. I hate it when I do that. Anyway, I went ahead and took the little baby green peppers off. They wouldn't have enough time to mature anyway to red. So the Spanish mammoth peppers here, they mature to red, but I can go ahead and get them green. And then I'll need a few bay leaves as well. And these right here are actually little French red peppers, so that'll be perfect. I'll chop up some of those in there too. And then of course some cayenne peppers. These are getting kind of small here towards the end of the season. So now I want to head on down to the garden where I have some more peppers. You don't really use a lot of red peppers in jambalaya normally, but I am picking these because, well, I have them, and so I'm going to make sure I use some green in here. Now, some of the fresh herbs I'm using will include thyme and also oregano. And then in my container garden, I wanted to get this scallion here. This has been in here for a while, and it is big, and I thought it would be perfect for this dish. You'll need about half a cup. So this will be fine. I'm going to use mostly the white part, and then I'll use the green at the end. So here are the ingredients that I am going to use. I'm also providing this little shortcut recipe for you. You can just use a Cajun seasoning. That should be fine. This is actually not too hard to put together once you get everything prepped. So you do have to kind of do a lot of chopping here. Now at the end of this video, I'm also going to make a little sauce for it. Y'all know I love sauces, but you could also just substitute like a buffalo wing sauce, but I'll show you that here at the end. Now here are the fresh ingredients I just picked from the garden. I also had to pick up some at the farm and the grocery store. I'm going to use the tomatoes in my sauce, and then the rest, the onion, celery, garlic, are going right into the jambalaya. And then I just had some homemade chicken stock, some tomato sauce, some white and black pepper, and rice. So here's the sausage that I smoked right here. It really turned out good. It's not real spicy, so I'm going to add a lot of spice to my jambalaya. I also picked up some smoked country ham at the farm, and then I'm using some leftover grilled chicken. So in my Dutch oven here, I just put about a tablespoon of safflower oil, and I just want to go ahead and get this country ham cooking and get some color going on it. So I'm on about medium-high heat. I'm going pretty high here, and after about 2 or 3 minutes, it was smelling really good. I went ahead, I added the sliced sausage that I smoked, and so I'm going to let this go probably, I think it was about 10 to 15 minutes until it really achieved a nice color, and it was coming to a very slow sizzle. I kept my eye on it because you don't want it to burn, and you're actually just developing a good flavor. I'll let it stick a little bit, then I'll stir, let it stick, stir, and then after it came to a nice little sizzle, I went ahead, added the onions. Now I'm reserving some of all of these vegetables that I'm adding for the sauce I'm going to make here at the end. So that kind of makes the sauce come together quicker. So I probably reserved about half a cup of onions. So now I add my green pepper, and I actually minced my jalapeno pepper, and then I added my celery. I also added a little bit of the red bell pepper, and I just toss these around, let them cook really good on about medium heat, because this Dutch oven is pretty hot at this point. So I let them cook, I don't know, probably at least 20 minutes to develop a really nice color. So I had some smoked habanero powder that I made, and I'm going to use about 1/4 of a teaspoon of this because it can be pretty hot. If you want to add some spices too, a good one would be like a cayenne, or maybe mixed with a little bit of smoked paprika. And now I'll add some white pepper, and this white pepper actually is a little bit hotter than a black pepper. A lot of people don't really realize that, but so I'm adding white pepper here and some black pepper. And we'll just go ahead and give this a good toss, get it coated with all of our seasoning. At this time, if you don't have those particular seasonings, you would just add maybe some Cajun seasoning, okay? So into our pot, I'm adding the tomato sauce. This is just a plain tomato sauce without any extra spices or anything like that in it. And I don't want this to burn, but I want to reduce it just a tiny bit in here. So I cooked it about 3 or 4 minutes, stirring it all the time. And now I'm adding the dry rice. I did not rinse this first or anything like that. So we want to coat the rice real good and get it nice and toasty. And then add the garlic and the minced cayenne pepper. For about 4 or 5 more minutes, I went ahead and continued to stir it, and then added the chicken broth slowly. And now for the bay leaves, the oregano, thyme, and the scallions. And we'll go ahead and just give this a quick stir. And I added also a little bit of sugar. And we'll make sure all this is incorporated really good. Now for my cooked chicken, I had actually marinated that too and grilled it, so it's nice and tender, has a lot of flavor in it. Now I'm going to bake it in the oven covered at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for about 20 minutes. So this is one of 2 tips by Chef Paul, you know, the New Orleans chef, who says that by baking this, you'll actually be able to achieve a little bit of a crispy rice on top, and that's what he says to do. And so I love that tip. These aren't his recipes, but I think that tip is great because you will be able to absorb all of that liquid, and it'll be a nice, you know, dry rice, because this is a rice dish. There shouldn't be any excess liquid in here at all. And then the other tip that he gives is to serve it with a sauce, and y'all know I love sauces, so I have to serve this with a little bit of a sauce. And so that's what we're going to do now while that's baking, is go ahead and get our sauce ready. So here's what I'm going to use for my sauce. It's really a lot like what I would call a buffalo wing sauce, because I'm using butter with tomatoes and peppers in it. So I just started by melting my butter, adding a little bit of salt to it. And now for my minced onions, scallions, and the bell pepper, the red bell pepper. We'll just get these cooking and smelling really good for just about 3 or 4 minutes. Now I'll add in my garlic, my minced garlic. And now for my tomatoes. And this is just about a cup fresh tomatoes. I just want to release some of the liquid in here, and so I'll cover it, let these cook on about medium-low heat for 4 or 5 minutes until I notice that they're getting soft. And I'm basically just going to go ahead and crush these with my little whisk here. I went ahead and added the oregano. So most of these ingredients are things that I've already used in the jambalaya, except for the fresh tomatoes. So I'm basically just highlighting a lot of those flavors that are in the jambalaya. I do think it really makes a difference to have a sauce with some kind of butter in it, just to kind of smooth it all out. It just really makes it, I think. So, and that's why, you know, a lot of buffalo wing sauces do have butter as their base. So that's why I'm suggesting you might want to do like a Cajun buffalo wing sauce or something like that. So now I'll add the tomato sauce. And now for about half of the chicken broth, and we're going to go ahead and bring this up to about medium heat, and I want to go ahead and start reducing this just a little bit. And then I went ahead and added the rest of the chicken stock, and at this point I want to go ahead and strain out all of the tomato skins and the peppers, onions, that kind of thing. So we'll just, over a little saucepan here, go ahead and strain everything out, and I'll push down on it really good to make sure I get all of the liquid out. Scrape the bottom, make sure you get all the good stuff, and our sauce is almost ready here. So back into the pan, and now I just want to go ahead and reduce it a little bit more just to concentrate all the flavors. Just let it simmer for, I don't know, 5 or 8 minutes. I went ahead and tasted it for seasoning. It was perfect. I am going to finish it here with something called a sherry pepper sauce. Now this is something I'll try to make for you, a homemade version here as a copycat recipe soon, but you can buy this on Amazon. It's basically sherry that is infused with about, I don't know, I think it's like 17 different herbs and spices, and it's got a little bit of heat to it, but it really is great with anything that's like a tomato based sauce or that kind of thing. But if you don't have this, you know, you can always just put a little bit, maybe a splash of Worcestershire. So here it is. It turned out perfect, and so this is for the family. Now I'm going to try to make this plate look a little bit fancy, just for fun, and so I decided to go ahead and get a big spoonful or two and just pop it right here in this little ramekin and just press down on it a little bit. The rice is actually perfect. There's big chunks of meat in here, and the rice is just falling apart, so really looking good. And so once I had all that in my ramekin, I went ahead and put some tomato sauce on my little plate here. It's pretty rich with the butter, but you don't need much, just a couple of tablespoons. And now we'll just invert the little ramekin, and I got me a nice little cup of jambalaya. I took the green tips from my scallion, popped those here on top, and dug in. And it was so good, my family was just like crazy. So I wanted to go ahead and get this out there in case you want to give it a try this weekend. And please make sure you click that little bell off to the right of the subscribe button, and you'll receive all notifications for my channel. Thank you so much for watching, and y'all have a beautiful day.